IMRA. That is correct. Questioner, was his assassination in any way influenced by Orion or any other negative force? IMRA. This is correct. Questioner, thank you. In the recent past of the last 30 to 40 years, the UFO phenomena have become known to our population. What was the original reason for the increase in what we call UFO activity in the past 40 years? IMRA information which Confederation sources had offered to your entity, Albert Einstein, became perverted, and instruments of destruction began to be created, examples of this being the Manhattan Project and its product. Information offered through Wanderer, sound vibration, Nikola, also was experimented with for potential destruction, example, your so-called Philadelphia experiment. Thus, we felt a strong need to involve our thought forms in whatever way we of the Confederation could be of service in order to balance these distortions of information meant to aid your planetary sphere. Questioner, then what you did, I am assuming, is to create an air of mystery with the UFO phenomenon, as we call it, and then by telepathy send many messages which could be accepted or rejected under the law of one so that the population would start thinking seriously about the consequences of what it was doing. Is this correct? IMRA. This is partially correct. There are other services we may perform. Firstly, the integration of souls or spirits, if you will, in the event of use of these nuclear devices in your space/time continuum. This the Confederation has already done. Questioner, I don't fully understand what you mean by that. Could you expand on that a little bit? IMRA. The use of intelligent energy transforming matter into energy is of such a nature among these weapons that the transition from space/time third density to time/space third density, or what you may call your heaven worlds, is interrupted in many cases. Therefore, we are offering ourselves as those who continue the integration of soul or spirit complex during transition from space/time to time/space. Questioner, could you give us an example from Hiroshima or Nagasaki of how this is done? IMRA. Those who were destroyed, not by radiation, but by the trauma of the energy release, found not only the body/mind/spirit complex made unviable, but also a disarrangement of that unique vibratory complex you have called the spirit complex, which we understand as a mind/body/spirit complex, to be completely disarranged without possibility of reintegration. This would be the loss to the creator of part of the creator, and thus we were given permission, not to stop the events, but to ensure the survival of the, shall we say, disembodied mind/body/spirit complex. This we did in those events which you mention, losing no spirit or portion or holograph or microcosm of the macrocosmic infinite one. Questioner, could you tell me just vaguely how you accomplished this? IMRA. This is accomplished through our understanding of dimensional fields of energy. The higher or more dense energy field will control the less dense. Questioner, then you are saying that, in general, you will allow the population of this planet to have a nuclear war and many deaths from that war, but you will be able to create a condition where these deaths will be no more traumatic than entrance to what we call the heaven worlds or the astral world due to death by a bullet or by the normal means of dying by old age. Is this correct? IMRA. This is incorrect. It would be more traumatic. However, the entity would remain an entity. Questioner, can you tell me the condition of the entities who were killed in Nagasaki and Hiroshima at this time? IMRA. They of this trauma have not yet fully begun the healing process. They are being helped as much as is possible. Questioner, when the healing process is complete with these entities, will this experience of death due to nuclear bomb cause them to be regressed in their climb towards fourth density? IMRA. Such actions as nuclear destruction affect the entire planet. There are no differences at this level of destruction, and the planet will need to be healed. Questioner, I was thinking specifically if an entity was in Hiroshima or Nagasaki at that time and he was reaching harvestability at the end of our cycle, would this death by nuclear bomb create such trauma that he would not be harvestable at the end of the cycle? IMRA. This is incorrect. Once the healing has taken place, the harvest may go forth unimpeded. However, the entire planet will undergo healing for this action, no distinction being made betwixt victim and aggressor, this due to damage done to the planet. Questioner, can you describe the mechanism of the planetary healing? IMRA healing is a process of acceptance, forgiveness, and, if possible, restitution. The restitution not being available in time/space, there are many among your peoples now attempting restitution while in the physical. Questioner, how do these people attempt this restitution in the physical? IMRA. These attempt feelings of love towards the planetary sphere and comfort and healing of the scars and the imbalances of these actions. Questioner, then as the UFO phenomenon was made obvious to many of the population, many groups of people were reporting contact and telepathic contact with UFO entities and recorded the results of what they considered telepathic communication. Was the Confederation oriented to impressing telepathic communication on groups that were interested in UFOs? IMRA. This is correct, although some of our members have removed themselves from the time/space using thought-form projections into your space/time, and have chosen, from time to time, with permission of the Council, to appear in your skies without landing. Questioner, then are all of the landings that have occurred with the exception of the landing that occurred when, name, was contacted of the Orion Group or similar groups? IMRA. Except for isolated instances of those of, shall we say, no affiliation, this is correct. Questioner, is it necessary in each case of these landings for the entities involved to be calling the Orion Group, or do some of these entities come in contact with the Orion Group even though they are not calling that group? IMRA. You must plumb the depths of fourth density negative understanding. This is difficult for you. Once having reached third density space/time continuum through your so-called windows, these crusaders may plunder as they will, the results completely a function of the polarity of the, shall we say, witness/subject or victim. This is due to the sincere belief of fourth density negative that to love self is to love all. Each other self which is thus either taught or enslaved thus has a teacher which teaches love of self. Exposed to this teaching, it is intended there be brought to fruition and harvest of fourth density negative or self-serving mind/body/spirit complexes. The following material, from session 53, May 25, 1981, was added for clarity. Questioner, can you tell me of the various techniques used by the service to others positively oriented Confederation contacts with the people of this planet, the various forms and techniques of making contact? IMRA. We could. Questioner, would you do this, please? IMRA. The most efficient mode of contact is that which you experience at this space/time. The infringement upon free will is greatly undesired. Therefore, those entities which are wanderers upon your plane of illusion will be the only subjects for the thought projections which make up the so-called close encounters and meetings between positively oriented social memory complexes and wanderers. Questioner, could you give me an example of one of these meetings between a social memory complex and a wanderer as to what the wanderer would experience? IMRA. One such example of which you are familiar is that of the one known as Morris 3. In this case, the previous contact which other entities in this entity's circle of friends experienced was negatively oriented. However, you will recall that the entity, Morris, was impervious to this contact and could not see with the physical optical apparatus this contact. However, the inner voice alerted the one known as Morris to go by itself to another place, and there an entity with the thought-form shape and appearance of the other contact appeared and gazed at this entity, thus awakening in it the desire to seek the truth of this occurrence and of the experiences of its incarnation in general. The feeling of being awakened or activated is the goal of this type of contact. The duration and imagery used varies depending upon the subconscious expectations of the wanderer which is experiencing this opportunity for activation. Questioner, in a close encounter by a Confederation type of craft, I am assuming that this close encounter is with a thoughtform type of craft. Do wanderers within the past few years have close encounters with landed thoughtform type of craft? IMRA. This has occurred, although it is much less common than the Orion type of so-called close encounter. We may note that in a universe of unending unity the concept of a close encounter is humorous, for are not all encounters of a nature of self with self? Therefore, how can any encounter be less than very, very close? Questioner, well, talking about this type of encounter of self to self, do any wanderers of a positive polarization ever have a so-called close encounter with the Orion or negatively oriented polarization? IMRA. This is correct. 3. This refers to case number 1 in Secrets of the UFO by D.T. Elkins with Carla L. Ruckert, Louisville, L/L Research, 1976, pp 10-11. Questioner, why does this occur? IMRA. When it occurs, it is quite rare and occurs either due to the Orion entity's lack of perception of the depth of positivity to be encountered, or due to the Orion entity's desire to, shall we say, attempt to remove this positivity from this plane of existence. Orion tactics normally are those which choose the simple distortions of mind which indicate less mental and spiritual complex activity. Questioner: I have become aware of a very large variation in the contact with individuals. Could you give me general examples of the methods used by the Confederation to awaken or partially awaken the wanderers they contact? IMRA. The methods used to awaken wanderers are varied. The center of each approach is the entrance into the conscious and subconscious in such a way as to avoid causing fear and to maximize the potential for an understandable subjective experience which has meaning for the entity. Many such occur in sleep, others in the midst of many activities during the waking hours. The approach is flexible and does not necessarily include the close encounters syndrome, as you are aware. Questioner: what about the physical examination syndrome? How does that relate to wanderers and Confederation and Orion contacts? IMRA. The subconscious expectations of entities cause the nature and detail of thoughtform experience offered by Confederation thoughtform entities. Thus, if a wanderer expects a physical examination, it will, perforce, be experienced with as little distortion towards alarm or discomfort as is allowable by the nature of the expectations of the subconscious distortions of the wanderer. Questioner: well, are those who are taken on both Confederation and Orion craft then experiencing a seeming physical examination? IMRA. Your query indicates incorrect thinking. The Orion group uses the physical examination as a means of terrifying the individual and causing it to feel the feelings of an advanced second density being such as a laboratory animal. The sexual experiences of some are a subtype of this experience. The intent is to demonstrate the control of the Orion entities over the Terran inhabitant. The thought form experiences are subjective and, for the most part, do not occur in this density. Questioner: then both Confederation and Orion contacts are being made and close encounters are of a dual nature as I understand it. They can either be of the Confederation or of the Orion type of contact. Is this correct? IMRA. This is correct, although the preponderance of contacts is Orion-oriented. Questioner: well, we have a large spectrum of entities on Earth with respect to harvestability, both positively oriented and negatively oriented. Would the Orion group target in on the ends of this spectrum, both positively and negatively oriented, for contact with Earth entities? IMRA. This query is somewhat difficult to accurately answer. However, we shall attempt to do so. The most typical approach of Orion entities is to choose what you might call the weaker-minded entity that it might suggest a greater amount of Orion philosophy to be disseminated. Some few Orion entities are called by more highly polarized negative entities of your space/time nexus. In this case, they share information just as we are now doing. However, this is a risk for the Orion entities due to the frequency with which the harvestable negative planetary entities then attempt to bid and order the Orion contact just as these entities bid planetary negative contacts. The resulting struggle for mastery, if lost, is damaging to the polarity of the Orion group. Similarly, a mistaken Orion contact with highly polarized positive entities can wreak havoc with Orion troops unless these crusaders are able to depolarize the entity mistakenly contacted. This occurrence is almost unheard of. Therefore, the Orion group prefers to make physical contact only with the weaker-minded entity. Questioner: then in general we could say that if an individual has a close encounter with a UFO or any other type of experience that seems to be UFO-related, he must look to the heart of the encounter and the effect upon him to determine whether it was Orion or Confederation contact. Is this correct? IMRA. This is correct. If there is fear and doom, the contact was quite likely of a negative nature. If the result is hope, friendly feelings, and the awakening of a positive feeling of purposeful service to others, the marks of Confederation contact are evident. End of material from Session 53, May 25, 1981. Questioner: then I am assuming all of the groups getting telepathic contact from the Confederation are high-priority targets for the Orion Crusaders. And I would assume that a large percentage of them are having their messages polluted by the Orion group. Can you tell me what percentage of them had their information polluted by the Orion group and if any of them were able to remain purely a Confederation channel? IMRA. To give you this information would be to infringe upon the free will or confusion of some living. We can only ask each group to consider the relative effect of philosophy and your so-called specific information. It is not the specificity of the information which attracts negative influences. It is the importance placed upon it. This is why we iterate quite often, when asked for specific information, that it pales to insignificance, just as the grass withers and dies while the love and the light of the one infinite Creator redounds to the very infinite realms of creation forever and ever, creating and creating itself in perpetuity. Why then be concerned with the grass that blooms, withers and dies in its season only to grow once again due to the infinite love and light of the one Creator? This is the message we bring. Each entity is only superficially that which blooms and dies. In the deeper sense, there is no end to beingness. Questioner, as you have stated, it is a straight and narrow path. There are many distractions. We have created an introduction to the law of one, traveling through and hitting the high points of this 75,000-year cycle. After this introduction, I would like to get directly to the main work, which is an investigation of evolution. I am very appreciative and feel a great honor and privilege to be doing this and hope that we can accomplish this next phase. I am R.A. I leave you, my friends, in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, merry and glad and rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one Creator. Adonai.